Is there something missing here, or is there something more? Not too long ago, Flex released their 24-volt brushless grinder with multiple speeds, and so now they've decided they need the accessories to go along with. Well, we think that's a great idea, and they didn't just come out with one actual accessory or one grinding wheel. They actually came out with several, one including the new SightMAX flap disc. Now, they have a regular flap disc as well. In fact, they have several new flap discs in both the SightMAX, which has the little gaps or snaggletooth design, and we're about to use this, by the way. They also have some cutting wheels also, and then even kind of a hybrid cutting wheel. So let's dive in, take a closer look at each one of these, use a few of them, then we'll come back and talk about pricing and what we think of them. Well, the obvious stick out here is the new SightMAX flap disc that has the gaps missing here. Now, the idea in this is that with the gaps in there and then at speeds of, 8,000, 10,000 RPM, that you can actually read through it. And actually still know what you're grinding when you're grinding on something. And we've got something here to grind on we will do in just one moment. Now, my concern with that is with less abrasives there, obviously, is that going to slow the grinding process down? And are you going to be able to grind less because you have less material there? And we will kind of check that here in a few moments. Now, they also have a regular flap disc as well. And they have these in 40, 60, and 80 grits. Now, we'll talk about pricing here in a few moments. But, again, if you want that tried and true flap disc, then they do have that as well. So you have the SightMAX with the gaps missing here in 40, 60, and 80. And then you have the regular in 40, 60, and 80 as well, in both 4.5-inch and 5-inch versions. Now, they also have your standard aluminum oxide disc as well, both in a hub as well as your Type 27 in 4.5 and 5-inch as well. And then stepping into the cutoff wheels, I was glad to see this because I'm pretty particular when it comes to a cutoff wheel because I know some cut much quicker than others. And this is their new, what they're calling their razor slice. So it comes in a Type 27, as you see right here, and it's a very thin design. In fact, let me show you. Now, just for reference, I typically love to use a Metabo slicer wheel. They cut really, really well. And this is a Type 27, 5-inch Metabo slicer. But let me show you here. 64, 65, 66,000. I think I was at 64. Well, that's 69. 68, I guess, depending on where we're grabbing that. So let's call that 67 thousandths of an inch thick. Now let's go to the razor slice. 30 thousandths, 29 thousandths of an inch thick on that wheel. So a much thinner cut. Now, will it last as long? Arguably, no. It's probably going to wear away quicker. However, it's going to cut less of a line and should cut much quicker, and we will find out. And they have that both in a 4.5-inch and 5-inch in the Type 27, as well as in a Type 1 as well. So if you want to run a Type 1, you can do that. And they have it in kind of a more of a standard size there. It's reading 54 thousandths, but I think they labeled this, I don't know what they label it as, but sometimes that's a little bit different. And then they have a combo. This is can be a cutting blade, and if you want to do some light grinding with it as well, it's a little bit thicker. So it's got more of a body in it at 88 thousandths of an inch thick. So that's more of kind of a multi-purpose wheel. If you like to cut things and then just kind of clean up the burrs on it, that'll work out well for that. And that's in a Type 27 that has a kind of a safer profile when it comes to cutting and grinding. So we've got a piece of steel here. We've got some weld on here, and we're going to use the 5-inch 40 grit SightMAX flap disc. Get our battery in here, and we've got a full 5.0 battery. And on the Flex, by the way, you have different speeds you can run. We're going to run that on high, which I believe is 10,000 RPM. And by the way, these blades or wheels actually are rated at 12,250 RPM. So we're well inside that safe range. So again, let's get the idea here, or let's take a look. that we can now see through our wheel and actually see what we're grinding. Okay, that's literally my first time ever using it. I thought I would really feel that missing spot. I will say that I can feel a little bit of a difference, but it's by no means shaking the grind or anything. I can just feel it in the wheel because I'm used to grinding, but it's eating away rather quickly. Pretty impressive. Okay, I'd say that's gone. Doing very well. Let's go to the next letter. Okay, that was the other thing I was curious of, is would it just kind of glaze over, or could I actually start really digging into the flap disc, which I did and can, because I have used flap discs before that once you kind of wear that top layer of the flaps, it really doesn't eat into the rest, but you can see how it's eating away like it should in that flap disc, so I can literally work this all the way down to the hub with still some cutting power. So I would say we've used up a lot of that wheel, but it is still cutting and grinding. Now, if you're curious that this may grab something when you go over it, whether it be a weld, a piece of metal sticking up, whatever, I've been told that I can do this. In other words, I've got a screw that's sticking up, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, a self-tapping screw here, and I'm going to try to grind this down with the SightMAX. Now, yes, I did just replace the wheel, so we got a fresh 40 grit SightMAX 5-inch wheel on here. So let's go. There we go. No issue at all. Okay, we're going to try to cut some metal, but the first one we're going to use is their combo blade. It's called their cut grind, and so it's a little bit thicker, so it's probably going to be slower cutting, but just wanted to show you the versatility here. We're going to be cutting a piece of this 1/4 inch thick steel. This is a Type 27 blade. And here we go. So that is cutting rather slow and throwing lots of sparks at our camera. I would say that's going to be for medium duty steel. I could definitely see that cutting through some sheet metal, but here's the second part of what this is good for. It's got enough body on it that I could clean up a burr on something I've cut. Now, just to give you an idea, here's a piece of angle iron here, so much thinner. So I could see this blade or wheel being used for cutting thinner metals, but also with enough body on it that I could dress up those burrs on, say, cutting, 1x1 square tubing, 1x2 square tubing with some, thinner walls. So now we've got the slicer on here, and let's see how much quicker this is. Very quick work of cutting through that 1/4 inch steel. By the way, they're supposed to have 50% less sparks with this as well, since it is a thinner wheel. Not sure, we're not measuring sparks today, but that is a very fast cutting wheel. We'll say that's a rather impressive outing for Flex's first run at grinding accessories or grinding wheels and cutting wheels as well. We love the razor slice. Again, as far as longevity, I'm sure that's going to wear away quicker. We haven't done any duration tests or durability testing on these wheels, but typically you're wanting it to cut fast, and we really didn't wear much away when we were doing the cutting, because you have to understand that because it's thinner, it's not only cutting faster, but it's also removing less material with arguably less friction. Yes, there's less material there to do it, so I'm sure it's going to wear away. But again, it does have some performance gains from having that thinner kerf. It's less wear on the tool as well, or less drag on the tool. Now, pricing on these, they will range everywhere from $3 up to like $12, $13. So now when you're looking at the 4.5 inch SightMAX flat disc wheel, you're looking at $12. Now for the 5 inch SightMAX, that's going to run you $13. So $1 more for the 1/2 inch larger wheel. Now in the regular flat disc, they're going to run $10 a piece for just the standard flat disc and the 40/60 and the 80 grit. The other cutting wheels and regular abrasive wheels are going to run somewhere between $3 and $5. We'll have a complete breakdown of the pricing both here on the video as well as in the description as well. Go ahead and check these out. There's no lifetime warranty on abrasive discs. They're going to last as long as you push them. By the way, I don't recommend you grinding down a screw like we did or a nail or something like that. As you can see, we kind of ground a groove into the wheel, so don't recommend doing that. But I will say it was rather impressive that it didn't grab at all in the gaps there and just ground that screw away really quickly. Performance-wise, we think these flat discs are phenomenal. We haven't really compared the regular flat disc to the SightMAX flat disc or from a Cubitron or a DeWalt or anything like that. But as far as kind of seat of the pants feel, we think it ranks up there with the best of the flat discs that we've used. We do love the fact that it actually wore away all the flaps. So in other words, we still got cutting going on or grinding going on, and it's wearing away the flap like a flat disc is supposed to do. As I mentioned, we've used plenty of flat discs that once you kind of wear away that top, it's not designed appropriately to keep wearing away. But as far as we can see, for the SightMAX or for the Flex wheels, this thing is wearing rather properly and continues to cut. Hey, check it out for yourselves. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.